Good morning, Tampa Bay. What is going on? Channelside in the morning, live from the Channelside Sports Network. Well, it's out there. It is it is out there. It is in the ether. It is in the atmosphere. Todd Bowles dropped a truth bomb that people are either looking too deep into or they are not looking deep enough into. Nonetheless, it is a very polarizing topic. Of course, we're talking about one Tom Brady and what's happening with the GOAT. Where is the GOAT? Where in the world is Tom Brady? And it's something that we do need to talk about, man. Good morning, James. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to those that are on the Twitter. If you're on the Twitter, I might not respond to you because it's a pain in the ass. So please hop over to the YouTube. Please hit that thumbs up on the YouTube. That will propel us to the home screen while we are broadcasting Channelside in the morning, because that is the ultimate goal, not just for the morning show, but for all of the live shows to get you guys over there. Of course, so we're going to talk about Tom Brady. Got to talk about Tom Brady. That's probably the most polarizing topic in the NFL outside of Deshaun Watson being suspended for the first 11 games of the season. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I got to tread lightly because I don't want to be canceled. We'll talk about the Bucs injuries. Injuries keep mounting up. Is it something we should be alarmed about? We talked a little bit about it yesterday. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. The Rays are still hot. Rays are very hot. The Rays made a statement last night. And then Markelle Fultz, speaking of making statements, holy crap. Markelle Fultz had a huge statement to be made on Twitter. And we'll talk about that. I'm not sure if that's a feasible thing. And then if we've got time, I'm going to throw off the cuff. I know it's a hot take Friday. I'm going to kind of go off the cuff, and we'll see. We'll see if we have time, and I'll go off. I'll freestyle some hot takes for you guys. I've got ideas. I've got them written down, but they might change. They might change. It's entirely possible. We got to talk about Tom Brady. We'll open the show with this. I feel like this may very well be the bulk and the brunt of our discussion this morning, especially if you guys are chiming in the chat. Todd Bowles obviously dropped the bomb yesterday. Said he has no firm date on Tom Brady's return. Of course, you know our job at Channelside Sports is to take the news and create engaging content and engage with the fans and entertain and break away from the norm, which is boring news reporting. I was a boring news reporter. I know that it's kind of falling by the wayside. I totally get that. I understand that, and I respect that it's changing. That's why Channelside Sports exists. So we put out a tweet yesterday. The first one was just a quote of Todd Bowles saying that there was no firm date. It said there's two scenarios. One, it's either damage control, getting ahead of the situation, which I'll go into a little deeply in just a moment. Or two, it's There is an absolute possibility that there is an moment. There is a possibility. Is it realistic? Maybe not, but there is a possibility that there is an oh my God moment ahead of looming in the very near future, ahead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There is a possibility of it. We'll start with the damage control comment first. I think it's smart. The Buccaneers know what they're doing. Todd Bowles knows what he's doing. Do you remember when Clyde Christensen came out and said, there's no way in hell Kyle Trask is competing for the QB2 spot? It's already won by Blaine Gabbert, and this was like at the very beginning, right before training camp even started, where he said Kyle Trask is not doing this. He's not competing for QB2. The very next day at the press conference, what does Todd Bowles say? Well, all the positions are up for debate. They're all up for debate. They're all up for battle. Kyle Trask will be competing for QB2. Todd Bowles understands the art of damage control. And by Todd Bowles announcing what he said yesterday about Tom Brady not having a firm date, in my mind, is exactly that. If you say Tom Brady's going to come back on X date and he comes back the day after, the media is going to tear the Buccaneers up. They're going to tear Tom Brady up. Fans are going to tear it up. They're going to make way more of it than there needs to be. That's the realistic aspect of it. That's why I think it's smart. Is there a possibility that he retired? Sure, there is. He's in sports, he's ancient when it comes to actual age in sports. The summer's been atrocious. It's been brutally hot. There's probably young guys that are sitting and that are taking a knee at training camp. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a guy on it taking a knee at training camp with a towel over his head or having water poured down the back of his jersey. It's ridiculous. Rick Stroud has seemed more like a weatherman than he has a news journalist or a beat reporter. Every day he goes out to training camp and he's reporting on the weather because it's so damn hot out. There's probably young guys sitting there saying, screw this. You don't think Tom Brady and his relic body is sitting there going, damn, I was retired for 41 days. Like, do I really got to do this? I mean, it's crazy. And Bucs fans are definitely, and rightfully so. We the Thunder on Twitter just chimed in and said, Bucs fans are rightfully frightened because there's no fallback plan. Do you guys remember before Baker Mayfield got traded to the Carolina Panthers for basically nothing? I was harping on the Buccaneers needing to trade for Baker Mayfield. Is Baker Mayfield the answer at quarterback? Maybe. But you needed to plan ahead and think about what was going to happen after Tom Brady. It's a very small window of opportunity, right? Very small window of opportunity, but there is a chance that after Tom Brady is sooner rather than later. Had you looked forward, had you looked ahead and said, you know what, let's get Baker Mayfield down here. Let's get him in the system. Let's have him learn the playbook. He's going to ride the pine. He knows that. If you're on a team with Tom Brady, you're not QB1. That's anybody expects that. But guess what? If you had Baker Mayfield, you've already got your answer if Tom Brady needs to take more time. If Tom Brady's gone a little bit longer. Blaine Gabbert takes the reins and shocks the world. I mean, look, that would be ideal. I don't think it's Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask looked good in the first preseason, but I don't think he's NFL game ready. However, you know what? If Tom Brady is not here for week 1 versus Dallas, what the hell? Throw Kyle Trask in the fire. See if he burns or see if he puts himself out. Throw him in the fire. Because you know that Dallas is going to be a high octane offense again. You know that they're gonna move the chains a lot on offense. Throw Kyle Trask into the fire. What the hell? But I think what we have to understand is that every person that is reporting some sort of opinion, and we're all entitled to our opinions, but what we have to realize is that it doesn't matter what local news outlet you work for. You do not know Tom Brady on a personal level well enough to say what he's thinking. You don't. Maybe if you're an old Boston Globe reporter, you covered him for 20 years in New England, you've developed a personal relationship. He's been here for 2 freaking years. Tom Brady hasn't been here long enough for you to develop and establish that sort of relationship with him. So to, with conviction, say this is going to happen, you can't. There's no possible way. And that's why we talk. That's why we do these things. This is why we talk, because it's for debate. Kyle Trask has definitely looked awful in practice. Unfortunately, he's had more bad than good, but the preseason game, I think, outshined it. But look, if we know Tom Brady as a competitor, right? Is Tom Brady the competitor going to retire abruptly and not come back? Absolutely not. We can say that with conviction because we have seen crazy pants on fire Tom Brady come back after being suspended for the first 4 games for Deflategate. We have seen the Tom Brady revenge tour. Remember, when Tom Brady came out of retirement this year, he said he had unfinished business. That's why we've labeled at Channelside Sports, that's why we've labeled this Buccaneers season the Unfinished Business World Tour. Because Tom Brady is a competitor. And this is what Tom Brady, like, this is where we are with Tom Brady. We don't know on a personal level what he's thinking. I can tell you that I was given information yesterday from a credible source. This source has not steered me wrong on 2 occasions. And we are not a news outlet. We will leave that to the pros. We leave that to the guys like Greg Allman and Rick Stroud. We don't care about breaking news. We cover the topics and we talk about the topics and we create engaging content. We don't talk about the injury report, right? We're not putting out Wednesday evening injury report articles. I did that for 10 plus years. I'm done with it. We get a writer. We're going to have a beat writer for each team. We will have a Buccaneers beat writer. And I do not want, I will not ask them to put out stupid pieces of work like that because it's just, it's busy work, and busy work, especially in journalism, is a waste of time. But instead, we'll make videos and we'll do video clicks. I mean, you know what? I have heard that. We the Thunder on Twitter says, what about the TikTok conspiracy that he's on The Masked Singer? Dude, it's entirely possible. Honestly, it really is. You know, that would be something that they needed to talk about well in advance. Hey, I was retired, because here's the thing is, you got to remember, when Tom Brady retired, that opened the door for all of these other things to happen, right? It opened the door for, hey, can you come on The Masked Singer? Hey, we're going, Food Network can call him. Dancing with the Stars can call him. All of these outlets can call him now because he is available and he is Tom Brady. Oh, and by the way, what channel is The Masked Singer on? Is The Masked Singer, does that broadcast on the same channel that gave him a $300 million oh, it is. It's on Fox. It is a possibility. It is a possibility that he wanted to spend more time with his family before getting into season mode again. This is likely Tom Brady's last season. It's entirely possible that he's sitting at dinner one night with Giselle and says, "You know what? This is the last ride. This is the last dance for Tom Brady. When the season starts, I need to go into absolute beast mode this season. I need to focus solely on this season. And I want to make sure that you are aware of that. And before the season starts, I want to spend some quality family time together to make sure that you understand that and the kids understand that. That's also entirely possible. Is Tom Brady working? See, this is what so the information that I was given yesterday is that Tom Brady is taking an extended period of time off because he's actually working. And now I know we tweeted this out, and the Buccaneers fan base, and instead of having fun and talking about it, just run right to Daddy Greg Allman and like, well, can you confirm? Can you confirm? First of all, in the tweet, it literally says, I am working to confirm. And I am the man behind Twitter. So if there's a beef with the Twitter, let me know. I said working to confirm because I am working to confirm. And I'm not going to give you the full information on a tweet. So I'm going to leave it vague. This is, I think, the third time saying this on this episode. Channelside Sports' job is to create engaging content based off of the news. When I put out a tweet that says Tom Brady being gone is strictly business, and you say, "Oh, he's working on the TB12 brand," great. That's your call. That was the way you received the information that was put out there. That's not the information that I was given, but I put it that way for that conversation. Is he working on TB12? Is he shooting a movie? Is he on Dancing with the Stars? Or maybe, just maybe, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers saw the first preseason game and said, oh my God, center has no depth. Center did not perform well. Left guard was atrocious. Gadecki looked bad. Stinney looked bad. Everybody on left guard did not look good. Center, we need to address the center position before we head into the season. So just maybe Tom Brady was given an extended leave of absence because he's actually handling business. And I'll still let you try to figure out what that means. Because like I said, the person who gave me that tip has given me two other tips that have been accurate this season or in this off season. I was given the information. Let's talk about it. Let's have fun. Let's chat about it. And let's create engaging content. That's what we do. What do you think Tom Brady is doing? Do you think he's sitting at home getting ready for Madden, playing Call of Duty, hanging with the family, on the phone with other centers, trying to get certain centers out of retirement, trying to get JC Treader to come down to Tampa Bay to add some depth to center? What do you think that he is doing? I want to hear what you guys think he's doing. Because I don't know what he's doing. I know what I was told and what I think he is doing. What I thought Tom Brady was doing is working for the Bucs while he is gone. Because he doesn't need training camp. Tom Brady doesn't need to play in the preseason. Kyle Trask needs to play in the preseason. Hell, Blaine Gabbert doesn't even necessarily need to play in the preseason. He's been in the NFL long enough to know how to prepare for a season and how to get ready. Sure, give him the first series. Give Blaine Gabbert the first series of the remaining two preseason games, and then put the rest of the weight on Kyle Trask's shoulders because we need to see how Kyle Trask is going to perform. So maybe the Buccaneers, maybe they say, hey, we really need to address center. That's the most important position outside of the blind side. Outside of your left tackle. That's the most important position on the field. We need to address this. Tom Brady recruited a lot of people in the offseason. Tom Brady recruited people the year before. So who better to call upon to address situations and get guys to ring chase, possibly take a pay cut? Tom Brady, the GOAT. I could have every single NFL player saved in my address book. And I can say with with 100% certainty, if I see Tom Brady's name pop up on my caller ID, I'm answering it after the first ring. In the middle of the first ring. There's some other guys, you know what? Maybe I'll send it to voicemail. But when Tom Brady calls, especially if you're an NFL player and Tom Brady calls, you're answering the phone. Maybe Tom Brady's doing both. Maybe Tom Brady's chilling with the family. And maybe he's also on the phone. That's the Dancing with the Stars thing is fun. Or no, I'm sorry, the Masked Singer thing is fun. Yeah, but I wouldn't put it past him doing it. Right? Because that's something you have to commit to. And once you're committed, you're in. Like you can't back out. Especially if something like that, because they plan their entire season based around these people being in. You know, the Masked Singer is very I watched, I don't know, the first 2 seasons, 3 seasons maybe. I don't even know where they are right now, but that's always a possibility because it's very secretive. You know, they don't want the judges to know. They don't want the fans to know. They don't want things to leak out. Of course, you know, we live in a connected world now. In 2022, everybody's digging. Everybody wants to be a reporter. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. Some rightfully so, some whatever, some don't necessarily need it, but this is what you have to be realistic about is that there is a possibility Tom Brady is doing things like the Masked Singer. But I do know that Tom Brady is definitely working on improving that offensive line. This is his last season. You don't want to go into your last season and be on your back for most of it because your line wasn't that good. Because you lost Ryan Jensen and you lost that fire and that spark on your offensive line. Yeah, they improved by bringing in Shaq Mason. But you don't know. And now, especially because we talked about this a little bit yesterday. The injuries are mounting up, man. Whether they're nagging injuries, here's what we know is Keanu Neal's gone for the remainder of the preseason. Tristan Wirfs has an oblique or a rib injury. Likely gone for the rest of the preseason because he's officially listed as questionable for week 1 against Dallas. Zion McCollum has a hamstring. Zion McCollum, questionable for week 1 against Dallas. Okay. Mike Evans is nursing a hamstring. Russell Gage is nursing a leg injury. Ryan Jensen obviously is out with the unknown knee injury. Likely ACL, but still largely unknown knee injury. We talk about injuries and we want to kind of dismiss them and go, yeah, but it's the preseason. The guys with these soft tissue injuries are long-term injuries. Calvin Johnson knows about soft tissue injuries. Calvin Johnson always had something, whether it was a hamstring, a quad. It was always something with Calvin Johnson. And he largely played banged up. Mike Evans, same thing. Mike Evans has largely played with hamstring issues. This is what kept Julio Jones out for the majority of last season. He only played 12 games? He missed 5 games last season? All due to hamstring. At some point we have to start going, okay, what's going on with our guys in the preseason? Hopefully, the optimism is that let's get all of these injuries out of the way now in the preseason as we head into the regular season. Of course, that's what we want. We want that to happen, right? We don't want We don't want the guys getting banged up when the games actually count and they matter. But we just talked about the offensive line not performing well against the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a better pass rush than the Tennessee Titans do. If you're looking fluky at center, if Robert Hainsey didn't play well at center, and all three of your rotating left guards looked real bad against the Miami Dolphins, and now Tristan Wirfs is questionable for week 1. Don't you kind of think that the Buccaneers are looking and going, okay, yeah, how do we protect Tom Brady? How does Tom Brady want to be protected? How about that? We should have about $6.5 million in cap space now that we know what Carl Nassib's deal is. And if we assume Patrick Laird's deal is on par with where he was with the Dolphins, we got about $6.5 million. And guess what? We've got the GOAT. We've got Tom Brady. We've got the recruitment extraordinaire. Do you remember like when you were 17 years old and Army recruiters were like always calling your house? I still remember that like vividly, and like showing up to your high school and wanting to talk to your parents. I can imagine Tom Brady being worse than that. And by worse than that, I just mean like more annoying. Sending texts, calls, sliding in DMs. I could see Tom Brady actually doing all of that because I think like Tom Brady is like the ultimate troll. And I think that's, hey, you're not going to respond to my text right away. I'm going to send you a DM. You're going to leave my DM on red. I'm going to give you a call. And like, just do that to just kind of be like Tom Brady, because I feel like that's what his personality is. That's what we know of Tom Brady. Again, like, none of us know Tom Brady on a personal level. Sure, we've interviewed him. That doesn't mean anything. When was the last time any of us went out and we had a protein shake with Tom Brady? None of us have done that. So that's the fact. But the questions on the offensive line, paired with Tristan Wirfs, with some sort of, it's not confirmed what the actual injury is. It's an oblique rib injury. That's all we know. It could be, I mean, hopefully it's not like a splintered or a fractured rib. We don't know yet. But if you already had questions on your offensive line, and now your best offensive lineman is questionable for week 1, don't you think that the Buccaneers are sending Tom Brady out to do whatever he can to recruit depth at the offensive line? I'm not saying he needs to recruit somebody to replace Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs is an all-pro offensive lineman. But you already had questions. We know that if I said this yesterday and I'll say this again, if Robert Hainsey, let's use week 1 as our example. If Robert Hainsey cramps up at any point during the first week against Dallas, who plays center? Who's going to play? Who slides over and who plays center? Is it Luke Gadecki, who's never played center? Is it Aaron Stinney, who's never played center? Is it Donovan Smith, who's never played center? Is it Shaq Mason, who's never played center? You don't have the availability of somebody who's played an NFL snap at center. And by the way, if you want to dig, you can do the research. I've done the research. Between all of our starting offensive linemen, outside of obviously Hainsey and Ryan Jensen, combined, there have been 40 snaps in college at center between all of our current starting offensive linemen. Guys, you've got to get the depth. You've got to get the depth. And Todd Bowles telling us that Tom Brady has no firm date on return is simply getting ahead of the media curve. So if you're one of the guys going, oh, the media needs to calm down. No, this is Todd Bowles put this out there for this reason. you got to take the tinfoil hat off at some point and understand, like, Todd Bowles knows what he's doing when he's at these press conferences. Todd Bowles knows what he's saying. So go ahead, take your tinfoil hat off and realize that Todd Bowles purposely put this information out in the open because he wanted to get ahead of it. There could be a firm return date for Tom Brady. Who knows? Todd Bowles has not lied to us, so there is no reason for us to not believe him. If Bruce Arians is up there, we know Bruce Arians talks sideways a lot, but he talks sideways a lot on purpose. Bruce Arians' job as a head coach was to create engaging content in a lot of these pressers. But there's no reason to not believe Todd Bowles when he says that there's no firm return date. There's not, because Tom Brady does not need to be here. Tom Brady already showed that he had the chemistry with Kate Otten. Tom Brady is so good that he doesn't. You got to remember what happened in Tom Brady's very first season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There was no off season. Guys were not working out together. There was no training camp. We were in a pandemic with COVID. And what happened? We won the Super Bowl. Tom Brady had no training camp and won the Super Bowl still. So him not being here is whatever. If he's taking personal time, if he's working for the Bucs, if he's on the masks, whatever the hell the situation may be, if Tom Brady's not here, Tom Brady's not here, and he doesn't need to be here because he's been in the league long enough to know that I can create chemistry with anybody on the field and I don't need a whole hell of a lot of time. But we do need to figure out the injury situation. We need to figure out what's going on. I don't know if these guys need to go to the stretch zone. Get those hamstrings stretched out a little bit more. I'm not saying the training staff is failing. That's a weird take. I see a lot of people talking about, oh, well, the training staff's fit. You don't know that. Once again, you don't know that. Sure, we can sit here and we can say, yeah, everybody's getting injured because the trainers suck. What are we, medical experts on social media now? Like, come on, guys. We're law enforcement experts. We're political experts. We're experts in everything on social media, right? We don't know that. What we do know is that we're dealing with injuries, period. And we've got to figure out a way to stop having to deal with these injuries. That's all we know. The Rays made an absolute statement last night with their 7-1. 7-1 over the Kansas City Royals in the first of the 4-game series. That looks promising. We've been saying for quite some time is that this is the stretch of games. This is why I gave him a 2-week notice last week, because this is the stretch of games where you need to make your move. This is where you need to make things happen, and you need to gain ground on the wild card. You need to gain ground on the Toronto Blue Jays, who you're now tied with. And they're tied with them because they hold the tiebreaker. So they're actually above them. But the record is tied. That's why the Rays are where they are. The Rays have a 62.4% chance of making the playoffs as it stands right now. Which is interesting because the Blue Jays, who are technically in third place behind the Rays, have an 88.2% chance. But the Rays are in the position they're in because they hold the tiebreakers over the Blue Jays. They hold the tiebreakers, over the Mariners. The Mariners are on a little streak right now. If the Mariners come back down, look, all sports are games of streaks. You're going to win a few in a row. You're going to lose a few in a row. You just want to have more of the wins in a row than you do the losses in a row. When the Mariners come down off of this streak that they're on right now with their 3-game win streak, and it's not like it's a huge streak. It's not like they were. I mean, who was? I think it was the Braves Were like on an 8-game winning streak. It's not like they were on an 8-game winning streak. They're on a 3-game winning streak. It's respectable. But you've got to look at where the Rays are and what they've done. The Rays are definitely like controllers of their own destiny. The Mariners have kind of a cake schedule for the remainder. Not for the remainder. Up until about September. Right when the Rays schedule becomes brutal, the Mariners schedule becomes hard too. The only issue for the Rays in terms of catching the Mariners is that the Mariners are this weekend in Oakland, and then they go to Washington, and then they host Cleveland. They travel to Detroit, and then they travel to Cleveland again. The only issue for the Rays is that this too is kind of like that cakewalk part of the schedule for the Seattle Mariners before they go on their own tough little gauntlet style schedule. And we already know that the Rays have the strongest strength of schedule remaining in the regular season. And that's not something that any team wants to go through, especially when you've got all of these injuries. But look, Yandy Diaz is still hot. One thing that I've noticed, which has been a trend, especially in the games, like when the Rays go on like these mini streaks, is that there's only one batter that's like truly, truly hot. Sometimes it's a Rosarina, sometimes it's Yandy Diaz. It was Manuel Margot earlier in the season before he went down. What would happen if two bats got hot for 4 or 5 games? What happens if Yandy Diaz stays hot for the next, let's say, 3 games? And then Randy Rosarina also gets hot for the next 3 games. The pitching has been so spot on and so good lately that if you've got 2 bats, you better watch out, because this Tampa Bay Rays team is coming and they mean business now. And yeah, we talked about there's always the possibility of the late season run, but you never want to have to count on a late season push. That's where you stand. You don't want to have to count on a late season run. Late season runs are great. They're fun. This is what you want. You want to see your team at the end of the season really ramp it up and prepare for a playoff push or a deep playoff run. But you didn't want to be in a position that the Rays were in at one point during the season where you were 4th in your own division, because it's the hardest division in the major leagues. You didn't want to have to basically dig yourself out of the hole. I mean, look at the Orioles. The Orioles dug themselves out of a hole, and I'm sure their team was on pins and needles the whole time. I'm sure their fan base was sitting there on pins and needles the entire time. And that's not what you wanted as a Rays fan. You didn't want them to have to go through digging themselves out of 4th place, but they did. And in the process, they hold the tiebreakers over. Who do they hold the tiebreakers over? The Blue Jays, the Mariners, the Twins, the Orioles. I'm looking at yesterday's show notes here. And they hold the tiebreaker over the Chicago White Sox because they're better within their own division. And that's a current stat. Out of all of the teams that I listed, the Blue Jays, Mariners, Twins, Orioles, and White Sox, the Tampa Bay Rays only play the Blue Jays again. So they're going to continue to hold the tiebreakers over all of those teams outside the possibility of the Chicago White Sox overtaking them solely for the reason of being better in their division. So all you really need to do is just hold the Blue Jays back. The Blue Jays have gotten hot. The Blue Jays have an easier remaining schedule than the Tampa Bay Rays do. But the Rays have this stretch of just, they should be gimmies. And last night, what we saw with that 7-1 victory over the Royals, that should be what we expect for the remainder of this series. It should be what we expect for Let's be realistic for 3 out of the 4 because at one of those 4, Ohtani is going to pitch, and Ohtani is just such a damn good pitcher that that's not a gimme. But you should expect to win 7 of 8 of these games if you're a Rays fan. After these 8 games, you've got the Red Sox in a 3-game series. You're not really sure what to expect from the Red Sox. I don't think the Red Sox know what to expect from themselves on a game-to-game basis. We've seen them get super hot. We've seen them get super cold. We've seen them bounce from second place down to 5th place to 3rd. They've had every position outside of the first place position. So you don't know what you're going to expect when you play against the Red Sox. And then they've got the Marlins. The Marlins, you're not really too worried about either. They don't have another day off. Their next day off is, I think it's the 29th. That's the only thing to be worried about if you're the Tampa Bay Rays is the stretch of injuries. I mean, it's no surprise to anybody. If you followed the Rays, even if you just follow baseball in general, and for some reason you're tuned into Channelside in the morning, you already know that the Rays have had a ridiculous amount of injuries this season. That's 17 people on IL at one point. If you got to play that many games in a row, it does get a little bit scary. It does get a little bit worrisome of, all right, like we've had a revolving door of health. We've not had a full bill of health literally all season. And now we've got all of these games in a row. They don't have another game off until the 29th, which is between the Red Sox and the Marlins. But you've got all of these easier games. Wander Franco left yesterday, not yesterday, the day before. I'm sorry. He left Wednesday's rehab assignment in Durham with soreness in his hands from the wrist that he had surgery on his right hand. Maybe he's not ready to come back. Manuel Margot, all of the guys are starting to come back outside of Kevin Kiermaier, who we know is done for the season because he had season-ending surgery. But this is your stretch, guys. This is the stretch of games where you make your move. I know this has still been a super popular topic is, can the Rays overtake the Yankees for first place? I don't even care. I don't care. I don't care if the Rays take take over first place from the Yankees. That doesn't matter. The Yankees did enough to not for me. They've done enough for this entire season for me to not even really worry about trying to take over first place. They created enough of a cushion. They've got a 9-game lead. They've got a 9-game lead. They also hold the tiebreaker over us. So a lot of pieces have to fall in place. You're realistically, if you want to take over the Yankees, you're about a lottery ticket short of this happening. Sure, somebody's going to say 9 games is not a lot. 9 games is a lot. Let's not kid ourselves. 9 games is a lot when you've got to count on the other team to lose more than 9 games because they hold the tiebreaker over you. 9 games is a lot. Now, if the Rays were in a better position in terms of their season series with the Yankees, sure, then it's a little more feasible for them to take over first place. But let's not focus. Let's not worry. Let's not even talk about trying to take over first place. Let's talk about taking back the number 1 wild card position and firmly planting ourselves in the 2nd place position in the AL East division. Let's talk about that. 62.4% chance of making the playoffs. I like those odds. They're ever increasing. And I expect the same thing to happen tonight. I expect another victory. I said, I expect them to win 7 out of these next 8 games. If we look ahead to the Red Sox and the Marlins, I'll say they drop 1 to the Red Sox solely because it's just divisional games they're always more difficult. You're always better prepared. You see that across all sports. divisional games, it doesn't matter how good and how bad one of the teams are, it's always a tough match. It's always a tough matchup. So it's not necessarily worried about that. I would say 7 out of these next 8. So what? 9 out of 11. And then I think you can sweep. It's a 2-game series. It's a 2-game mini series against the Marlins. I think you could sweep that. So you have the possibility. You have the possibility of going 11-2 over these next 13 games, and that's exactly what you need. Because then what you're doing is now you're putting the pressure on the Blue Jays. Can the Blue Jays match what we're doing? Likely not. They just can't. Can the Yankees? The Yankees can. Yes, the Yankees can match what we're doing because they've played this well for the entire season. Sure, there's been a retraction in their games, but the Yankees are their next series. Like I said, the Yankees series is easy. They're going to wrap up. They've got Toronto. They've got the Mets. Five moderately difficult games, right? But then they go to Oakland. 4 games against the A's. You could sweep the A's. 3 games against the Angels. You could sweep the Angels because Ohtani might not even be in rotation because they've got the Angels right after the Rays have the Angels. And then September comes. And then September is a lot easier for them. They've got the Rangers. They've got the Pirates. They got the Red Sox. I mean, it's the Yankees have a much easier schedule than the Rays do. So a lot of things need to happen. But I think the Rays can close the gap, and they probably will close the gap on the Yankees. They're not going to take over first place, guys. We've got to move on from that. That's not going to happen. Markelle Fultz. Brother, I love the optimism that is coming out of the Orlando Magic camp right now. Markelle Fultz yesterday says that the Orlando Magic are going to be the 4th seed. I mean, that's what we assume, the subliminal tweet that just said 4th seed, right? Magic fans are going in a frenzy right now. So props to you because the excitement was already there upon winning the draft lottery and getting the first overall pick and picking what appears to be, without a shadow of a doubt, the right choice for the number 1 overall pick with Paolo Banchero. Seeing how he performed in the 2 games in the preseason and the leadership, seeing how he performed in the crossover pro-am. Sure, DeJounte Murray had a nice dunk on him, but whatever. I love the optimism. I love the excitement with this Orlando Magic fan base right now. Jonathan Isaac is coming back. I know he is a polarizing player, probably right down the middle. Some like him, some don't. I'm literally right down the middle. I don't like that he disconnected himself from basketball completely while he was injured. But he's still on the Orlando Magic, and I still wish him well. Even if he's not on the Orlando Magic, you don't want, if you're one of those people that is like wishing injuries upon a player, like don't you and I are not alike. We're not going to be able to communicate because I'm not that guy. I want Jonathan Isaac to come back and absolutely kill it. I want him to prove to me that he still cares about basketball. I want Jonathan Isaac to succeed because he's already here, the same way that I want Kyle Trask to succeed because he's already here. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. If we look at the numbers from last season, we've already looked at 43 wins is what it took the Atlanta Hawks to make the play-in game. Cavs had 44 wins to make the play-in game. The Atlanta Hawks had 43. If we're looking at the 4th seed, if we're the Orlando Magic, the 4th seed had 51 wins last year. I was comfortable with a 37 win projection, and I'm comfortable rounding it up and saying we can probably go 40-42 and be comfortable with that projection. But 50 wins is a lot, man. You're talking about 20 games over 500 almost at that point. That's Look, I would love for the Orlando Magic to come out, and I would love for the Orlando Magic to overachieve and for this team to just blow everybody out of the water and blow everybody's expectations away, mine included. I think my expectations are more realistic. 51 is a huge, huge turnaround. And obviously, we don't know if there's going to be any like retraction in the amount of wins. Also, I don't even know who the seeding order would be. I assume it'd be some form or fashion of, and this is obviously assuming that the Magic would get the 4th seed as Fultz projected. Would be Miami, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, maybe Brooklyn. I don't know. That's where it's difficult. I assume the Hawks are going to be better. The Hawks improved in this off season. The Hornets, I think, are a team that's on the come up. The Bulls, the Pistons, I think, are going to be a team that you're going to want to watch out for this season as well. I think they've got a lot of young, promising players, and that's why I'm super excited to watch the opening game of the Magic season. They play the Pistons. You couldn't get a more evenly matched set of rebuilding teams full of young players than watching the Magic and the Pistons. That's going to be a super exciting game to open up the NBA season. But I'm not sure who that seeding would be. If the Magic do, I don't think they're going to land the 4th seed, but we're playing along with Markelle Fultz here. Miami, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. I don't know if I can see Orlando going. I think if they're going to overachieve, I think the 6th seed is where I would look to put them. I think number 6 would be where the Orlando Magic could overachieve and wind up. And I'm comfortable saying that purely on an optimistic standpoint. Is number 6. I don't think is 4, Markelle. I'm sorry. I think overachieving could get you to the 6. And I would be totally happy with the Orlando Magic landing in the 6th position because you're still rebuilding. You are still, as the Orlando Magic, you are still at the beginning stages of a rebuild. You got to remember, you just traded away Aaron Gordon. You just traded away Vucevic. Like you've got your return with Franz Wagner. You picked up Markelle Fultz, who didn't pan out well in Philadelphia. Obviously, you've got Paulo Banchero. You got Wendell Carter from the Bulls. Like, you got all of these young pieces. It's possible that you overachieve because people are definitely discrediting you. I don't know how many times I've had to say it. Did you put in your bets? Whether it was DraftKings, FanDuel, doesn't matter. Did you put in your bets when I told you to smash the over on that 26.5 win total for the Orlando Magic? I hope you did, because now it's gone down to minus 110. So if you bet $10, you're gonna win $1. You're not gonna win anything. So hopefully you did that, because the Magic have the 4th easiest schedule in the NBA this season. And they've got a lot of promise, and they've got a lot of good things that I'm excited for. That'll be one of my hot takes. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to do hot takes. And they're going to be quick because we're not going to go over today. We went over excuse me. We went over yesterday. We're not going to go over today. The Orlando Magic will be the 6th seed in the East. There's my hot take. The Magic will get the 6th seed. Not the 4th. I'm sorry, Markelle. 6 seems more realistic, and I'm fine taking 6. I'm okay with that. The Rays, I'm going to say the Rays. This one is difficult. This one is super difficult for me because Mm, I don't want to jinx it because I know that it's very important that they do it, but I'm going to say that the Rays reach a 9-game winning streak. I'm going to say that the Rays sweep the Royals, they sweep the Angels, and they win the first series against Boston, or the first game of the series against Boston. And then Boston gets lucky and they steal one. My third hot take is that Tom Brady, when he returns to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady returns with a group, and that group will consist of a center. I'm going to say JC Treader. I'm going straight out on that limb and saying that when Tom Brady returns, it's because JC Treader will return with him and he will sign back with him. And yeah, I'm totally okay. That's how my third hot take will be. Tom Brady returns. Tom Brady returns with JC Treader. JC Treader might return before Tom Brady does, but that's what I'm going to go out and I'm going to say that right now. Or Tom Brady's going to get a center out of retirement, but Tom Brady will return, but he will return with a center in hand, in his back pocket. That'll be his ace up the sleeve. Everybody is ranting and raving about where is Tom Brady. I already told you where Tom Brady is. Tom Brady is taking some time with the family. Tom Brady is also working to improve the Buccaneers offensive line ahead of the regular season. Voila. Hot takes, baby. You got to love hot takes, man. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. Thank you to those who tuned in across all of the platforms. If you're watching it on Facebook, I'm not sure what's happening with Facebook, and I'll be very quick about this, but we continue to get like these weird copyright infringements from like these Bangladeshian doctors. So yeah, no, we're not trying to spam you. We're not doing any of that. So if you're watching it on Facebook, this is part of the reason why we're going to be getting off of Facebook. We have our own business concierge because of our reach, which is, I guess, is kind of cool, but they also really don't do anything for us when I have these issues. So YouTube is going to be the place to be in the near future again. And make sure, please head over to the YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're watching it on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up. The more people that come in, the more fun this becomes, because the more chopping it up you can do in the chat with other people. That's just going to become more fun for you, more fun for us, because we might throw your comments on the screen and might have some fun with them. You never know. But regardless, thank you if you tuned in. Thank you if you tuned in live, or if you're going to tune in on the replay through our YouTube. I appreciate it regardless. You know, you can follow us on all of the social media platforms. Just search for the Channelside Sports Network. We're doing the thing, baby. That's all I can say. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. I'll be back on Monday. We're going to do it all over again. Hopefully we've got some different things to talk about. Maybe we have some clarity on the Tom Brady situation. Never know. But until then, have a good weekend. Channelside in the morning, live on the Channelside Sports